Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, KHALID. But the week begins, lots of stories to discuss with you. It's a Monday, it's the 25th of November, and this is the lineup for today. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the arrival of the Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko to Pakistan on a 3-day official visit. He arrived a few minutes back and of course was received very warmly by our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, and of course it shows the cordiality and the whole atmosphere, the environment on which both the countries are working, and to strengthen that environment, that brotherly environment, and of course strengthening collaboration and cooperation in various fields as well. 8 MOUs have already been signed between the two sides, and there's a lot more that is going to be discussed while the President will be here in Pakistan. We'll be highlighting different aspects of the relations between Belarus and Pakistan in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Pti'S politics of agitation, and the way this political party has been moving forward with their agitation, and the timing of that agitation also brings a lot of question marks on what their actual intention is. That and more will be discussed in our second segment. Then we'll be talking about the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women that is being observed today across the world, and there have been important messages from our President Asif Ali Zardari as well as from the Secretary General of the United Nations. We'll be highlighting different aspects of that, and we'll have a guest to talk about that as well. Then we are going to talk about India, where violence has increased after the clashes occurred over a mosque survey. Now, a mosque that has been here since centuries is apparently being contested because quote unquote some people are saying that there was a mandir or a temple at that place which was destroyed to build this mosque hundreds of years ago. Anyways, this is creating a clash, and this is creating a lot of tensions in the area. Finally, we'll be talking about former news editor of Pakistan television, Mrs. Murtaza Javed, who has passed away at the age of 67. She has rendered more than 25 years of service to Pakistan television and was an extremely professional lady. I've had the opportunity of working with her and of course interacting with her on many an occasion. May Allah grant her soul eternal peace. This is the lineup for today, ladies and gentlemen. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns Belarus, Pakistan, the arrival of Alexander Lukashenko, the president of Belarus, and of course what has already happened between Belarus and Pakistan, what could happen in the days to come during especially the visit of the Belarusian president. We've been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. Jamil Ahmed Khan Saab, Dr. Jamil Ahmed Khan Saab, who is a former ambassador and a foreign affairs analyst. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, to have joined us after a bit of a hiatus, and also Dr. Niaz Murtaza, who is a political economist. Thank you very much to both our eminent guests who have joined us. I'll begin with you, Dr. Jamil. What could be the agenda of President Lukashenko's visit to Pakistan this time around? We know the friendship, we know the relationship, we already know what has transpired before his arrival with the whole 68-member delegation, in which a majority is are businessmen who are also here. We've also seen the trade talks between both the sides as well, the 8 MOUs that have signed as well. What are you further expecting during this trip? Dr. Jamil Ahmed Khan, the question is for you.
They are trying to evolve a complete roadmap 2025 to 2027, and this is as a result of the JMC, that's the Joint Ministerial Committee meeting, 7th Joint Ministerial Committee meeting, in which all these policy decisions are taken, followed by a delegation visit in September, and then further followed by another very high-power delegation in October during the SCO meeting. And now, this succeeding visits are very high-power visits from Belarus. It is a demonstration of a very strong bilateral relation which is emerging. We've been having a bilateral relation since 1992, but now it's taking a new and a higher trajectory. We are at the multilateral platform, SCO member. Belarus is an SCO member, a new entrant, and Pakistan is already a member of the SCO. So at the multilateral level, we have a cooperation, we have a collaboration. And at the bilateral level, we are now attaining a new trajectory. 8 MOU which has been signed, and further are going to be signed, many more are going to be signed, and the agreement, and that would really chalk out the timeline and the further strategy for the trade, commerce, industry and other bilateral relations. We are already into, we are importing from Belarus the machinery, the fertilizer, and some of the commodities, and we are exporting them, textiles, some surgical items. Also, we are exporting them some of the leather items. We are all, but we are going to now further going to augment it in terms of the processed food and the fruits and vegetables, and there are many more items which would be included in this. So that is one aspect. And the second aspect is in the geopolitical context, where Belarus has taken a very strong side of the Russians, particularly after the Ukraine war once it broke, and Belarus is under sanction. We might as well find initially these couple of months some difficulty, but now the countries have started having their trade in their own local currency, and for that we have to rebalance our negative trade balance with Belarus. We do have a very strong defense production relations with them as well. So, but then subsequently, once Trump takes over the administration of the United States, afterward we feel that this Ukraine issue would start diminishing, particularly the war would subside, or at least maybe completely it is resolved. And once that happens, the sanctions would also be relaxed on Russia and in turn on Belarus. So that means that we would have a very good market, and then the geopolitical and geostrategic location and geographical location of Belarus is just, it's a very pivotal country between Europe and the Russians. So Pakistan, once the road access is available, and they are, and once we have the direct our bilateral trade in many fields, then in that case the freight would also be curtailed. At the moment we have a very high freights because it goes through different channels, but now once we have direct trade with them, this is one of the most powerful delegation. Now the president has arrived a few moments, as you just informed, and it was yesterday once the delegation came, 68 members delegation, 43 members of the business community there, and our B2B meeting has taken place. So which means that
I'd like to revert the next question, of course, now to Niaz, and you were talking of B2B meetings, Dr. Jamil. Niaz, B2B meetings have happened. The business forum between both the sides happened. 43 businessmen are part of this delegation that comprises 68 people, and now the president is also here. There was a lot of important discussions from both the sides in this business forum that happened today, and our minister, Jamil, talked about the potential to increase trade in sectors including food, pharma, textile, leather, logistics, and energy. Do you feel that Belarus is going to be a good hub for exports from Pakistan? Do you feel that this business forum has been successful today?
Well, yeah, I mean, Belarus, it's an unconventional market, I would say. Normally we think of Europe, USA, the Gulf countries. These are our traditional markets, but there's always been a push by scholars that Pakistan needs to go think beyond these countries and develop its relationships with other countries that have kind of stayed out of Pakistan's orbit. Although, as Dr. Jamil explained, there are considerable ties already existing. So in the backdrop of that, we must recognize that that a head of state visit does signify things beyond the operational level. They signify the fact that both countries are looking to develop more strategic relationships now, because obviously Belarus is not just a stone throw away. It's quite far from Pakistan, and for the president of that country to come to Pakistan, it does signify that Belarus sees Pakistan as a strategic partner worth visiting and upgrading relationships. So if you look at the kind of relationships that Pakistan can have, they cover several areas. First of all, the economic area, then I think also the scientific area, defense, and moreover, the strategic level as well, because both Pakistan and Belarus share some commonality in the sense that, they are not, you know, core members of what is now become, the Western dominated bloc. Both Pakistan and Belarus are outside of that and closer to countries like China and Russia. So there can be, we can look at each of these areas one by one. Economically, there are several sectors where we can deepen our relationship much more. Belarus, as you know, was an industrial hub. It was part of, the ex-Soviet Union and one of the countries after Russia which had a strong scientific and industrial base. So it's still, fairly technologically advanced in those areas, and Pakistan can certainly look to, benefit in the area of, industrial import, in the area of defense import, in the area
Industrial
of
and agriculture,
science.
Niaz, you talk of industrial and agricultural agriculture as important fields as that is concerned. Where this is exactly what our Minister for Industries and Production, Rana Tanveer Hussain, has also said when he met his the Belarusians. He talked about the same thing, that we need to extend on our industrial and agricultural cooperation. How much could that benefit Pakistan?
Yeah, because the interest clearly is not at the state level, but as you can see, more than 40 business people have also traveled in the delegation, which means that it is not just the state of Belarus, but even the business and the industry sections of Belarus recognize Pakistan as an important market from which they can both import as well as export. So I think I see double significance of this visit, both at the state level and at the society level. And again, Pakistan should look to benefit, of course, from the imports that it can do, which may be cheaper from those coming from faraway countries like USA and so on. But then it should also look to penetrate Belarus markets, because Belarus has a fairly high per capita income. It's not a poor country, and it can import a wide variety of goods from Pakistan. And there was a market from Pakistan earlier too, and that can be again revitalized. It could cover agriculture, leather, textiles. So there's a wide variety of areas where Pakistan can look to increase its export to Belarus. And then also I would say tourism could be another area, because again Belarusians are fairly wealthy, and they are looking to travel.
Spots for them to to look and to be enamored by, whether it is our mountains or our deserts or our palaces, and so Texala. I mean, there are so many places in Pakistan. Dr. Jamil, coming to you, the avenues of cooperation is what Niaz was talking about. Dr. Jamil, I'd like to understand, when you talk of avenues of cooperation, I'd like to highlight two: justice and climate change, because the meetings have happened in the area of climate change between, of course, Romina Khurshid Alam and the Minister for Natural Resources and environmental protection from Belarus, as well as here in the judicial, Mr. Tarada, and of course the Belarusian Minister for Justice as well. Do you feel these are avenues that could be strengthened, and maybe both the countries could learn from each other's experiences in these fields?
Yeah. Belarus is quite advanced in technology, and we are already, even with this in this delegation, we are having discussion on the electric vehicle, green energy. Obviously, that helps us towards the climate friendly products which one could produce. Yes, that is one aspect. But overall, if we see that because of the technology and because of the advancement for what they have, in fact, even in our defense production, they've been really of a great assistance to us, and we have a very, very strong bilateral relation with them. And basically because of the technology, some of our products which we are introducing in various shows, including the ideas which just happened a couple of days ago, we had certain components which certain piece of equipment which was basically based on the technology of Belarus. So yes, and since 43 people were coming here and we're already here, the business, it appears that because of the SIFC, now they'll find it much more easier, and the atmosphere and the ease of doing business has become much easier now after the introduction of SIFC, because previously we have to admit that our bureaucracy and our red tapeism was a detrimental factor for the investors, and people have been themselves complaining me while I was ambassador in various countries that, you know, it becomes very hard for any investor in Pakistan because there are 24 departments now. After the introduction of SIFC, that very impediment has now been removed. So these, and that's why perhaps there is a meeting taking place already with the SIFC of this delegation. And that shows the interest of the business people, the industrialists who want to set up some of their units and they want to really collaborate with Pakistan. So that way, I think we can make the best use of this occasion. And this basically, as I said, this is a roadmap which we are drawing from until 2027, and obviously after that it would take and it would gain a new trajectory. So that in the backdrop of the fact that the entire economy and so many things are happening in this region, particularly so many aspects of economy is moving from west to east, and therefore this SCO has also become quite an important regional organization, and Belarus being part of the regional organization. And as I was mentioning, that after Trump's takeover, things would improve in that region. And once that improves, the sanctions would also be relaxed or maybe removed. And at that time, it will be much more easier for Pakistan to enhance and double down their export in Belarus and cover that entire area, because Lithuania, Latvia, all these countries are just neighboring countries, although they are the European Union country, but it could still be easier if we have in the bulk the transportation system and that we are able to transport our goods and services into that region. And then from there, it becomes much more easier for those the business people to further, do their trade from with the competitive goods what we can supply from Pakistan, and we are already supplying many things to them, as we discussed earlier. So from that standpoint, I guess we are at a very right trajectory, and we are going to really strengthen this relation. It's not only Belarus, but other members of the SCO. We are increasingly trying to improve our relations with them, with trade and commerce. And that was what was decided during the meeting, during the summit of the SCO, and during the SCO, our bilateral meetings with various head of the states and with various delegations, even during that time. What is needed at this time is that whatever has been decided and whatever strategic decisions have been taken during SCO and whatever is being decided now with this delegation of Belarus, a follow-up with the concerned ministries, concerned departments, because unless that is done with a full strength, probably the fruits cannot be reaped of all these political and leadership level the improvement of the relations. So that has to be translated into the trade, commerce, industry, economics. So only then we'll be able to perhaps be in a position to say that yes, we have made the difference. Right now, with Belarus, we have a trade deficit, but that's basically because of the machinery and because of the equipment which we are buying from them. but then that could be balanced very conveniently once such like delegations they start taking interest into Pakistan. One more thing, which is which is of a geopolitical importance, that Belarus, once they come and make investment, they find it much easier to have the access, although they have the access through Central Asian countries to China, but they're industrialists, and if they set up their unit share, they find it much easier too, because Belarus is a landlocked country, and it could be much easier for them to promote their products.
I get it. I'm a bit short of time. I want to ask this last question to Dr. Niaz. Thank you very much. Dr. Niaz, coming to you, last question. What are, we are talking of geostrategy, geopolitics with Dr. Jamil. I'd like to understand, how does the visit of President Lukashenko fit into a broader context of Pakistan's foreign policy perspectives as well, and geostrategic and geopolitical perspectives specifically towards Eastern Europe?
Yeah, I think Pakistan should take a regional approach to its relationships with Belarus, because, there are the Central Asian countries, there are the Eastern European countries, which are bound by their common history as being part of, the ex-Soviet Union, and they still, enjoy good relationships. Now, Pakistan already has very strong ties with Azerbaijan within Central Asia. And, we cooperate very, very closely, and it's one of the strongest supporters of the Kashmir cause, along with Turkey. So similarly, Belarus can play the same role within the East Asian, the Eastern European bloc, because, they in turn have good relationships with countries like Moldova and other Eastern European countries. So I think if we develop a regional approach and a regional push in terms of, identifying the opportunities that exist within that region, then, over time it could even become as important a bloc for us as some of the other blocs like East Asia, Gulf, etc. In the same way,
I agreed with you on that. We're a bit short of time. Thank you very much, Dr. Niaz, Murtaza. Thank you very much, Dr. Jamil Ahmed Khan Saab, to have both of you joined us to discuss Pakistan-Belarus relations and how we can further take them forward during this very, very important visit of the Belarusian President, Mr. Lukashenko. Thank you very much to both of my guests. Our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf's politics of agitation. We are seeing it happening as we've seen that happen in the past as well, but it's a timing that is a bit, raises a lot of questions. Whenever there's something that concerns Pakistan's stability, Pakistan's moving forward in the international arena, there's always some kind of an agitation that occurs from this political party. Why is that so, and what aspirations does this party have through its politics of agitation? We've been joined by Daniyal Sheikh. He's a political analyst right here with us in the studios. Daniyal, thank you very much to have joined us. What are, in your point of view, the primary reasons that this political party has adopted a strategy of agitation in Pakistani politics?
First of all, like you just mentioned, they always show up on the right time, which, like they say, actions speak louder than words. So it's impossible that something good, because see, we're living in a global village, we're all linked to each other, and Pakistan is facing a major trade deficit, and by increasing our trade with other friendly countries, this is the only way we can come out of the current economic situation that we find ourselves in. So whenever something of this sort, be it the Chinese vice president, be it the Malaysian premier, be it a Saudi delegation,
the SCO last month.
So they're going to make sure that to create their usual ruckus. And like, if you see, the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Now, if you sit down and try to reason with them, okay, how are you going to get a prisoner released, a convicted prisoner released, or an under trial prisoner released for that matter, by assembling a few thousand people? And another thing that they basically want to do, or they're trying to do, is they want to ethnically further divide the country, and for which they have patronized the people in KPK in a certain manner, and they go to the extent of using state resources against the federation. Like if you take a look at the video footages, there were countless fire trucks owned by the Pakhtunkhwa government. So they will go to the extent of using taxpayers' money to attack the federation, not just attacking the federation, to sabotage any chance of economic growth in Pakistan. So the agenda is very, very clear. When Pakistan was at a verge of default, they wrote a letter to IMF, and just look at the current situation in KPK, look at the law and order situation, look at the situation in Parachinar. So don't you think that the Chief Minister and his entire team should be busy focusing on saving those precious lives? But no. So the agenda is very clear, like you asked.
The priorities are very clear.
The priorities are very, very clear, and now though it's anyone can understand it, and basically in layman terms it's what we call playing to the galleries. And the irony is that even when the founder of this political cult, when he was in power, even at that time, if you remember, one of the opposition leaders at that time, Bilawal, once made a speech in the National Assembly and said, "Ke now you are also Prime Minister of those people who you call donkeys." So anyone who cannot reason with him, or anyone who can reason with logic in his narrative or in his opinion, is a donkey. So now, and then he suggested him, "Ke now you should come off the container," but that did not happen. And the level or the spectrum of his delusion, if you remember, once he made a claim that they found some kind of an oil reservoir in the Arabian Sea, and and he was congratulating the whole country as if it's our destiny has changed. And so it's very much clear they're extremely delusional, extremely immature. They have no agenda.
They do have an agenda. There you are wrong. Because when you say there's...
No, I'm sorry. You cut me. They have no agenda for the country's prosperity or betterment. They definitely have an agenda. And basically it's in very layman terms, it's my way or the highway. And they want anarchy in the country. It's a fundamentalist approach.
All right, let me just give you some statements that came out from the government side. Our Deputy Prime Minister Sheikh questions whether this protest is a political move or a well thought out conspiracy and game against the dignity and honor of the country. Our Minister for Information also says that this party cannot digest the country's progress, and he says that when things are moving in the right direction, of course, that is when they move in. You talk of this party playing to the public gallery. This is something that you mentioned in your answer. How has the public perception of PTI's agitation tactics evolved over the years? How do the public perceive this?
Well, first of all, there are shrinking numbers, be it the assembly in Sangjani that they last did. And secondly, you see, assembling a few thousand fanatics means nothing when it comes to national opinion. And as far as the whole, if you talk about parliamentary politics, I don't think that they have gained anything with this agitation that they've been doing. But yes, they are definitely to some of the young youth, especially in KPK. Now, I don't want to give a racist statement, but ethnically, the people living in KPK, they are known to be a bit emotional. So he has been able to emotionally charge few of them, not the masses. It's not like the whole province showed up, but a few thousand of them. But if you say that he has been able to secure the popularity in the masses, that's not true.
All right, Daniyal, I'd like to also understand. Our Finance Minister, Mr. Aurangzeb, says that this ongoing protest by the opposition results in a daily loss of 190 billion rupees to the federal government. Daily export related losses amount to 26 billion rupees. Foreign investment suffering a daily setback of 3 billion rupees. Why make the economy of a country suffer to which you yourself belong?
Like we said, it's an agenda of mass destruction. So it's a you see, if we, no matter how much we try to understand, it's so obvious that it's not like you can, it's not rocket science. It's so evident, it's so obvious. But this cannot be a coincidence. Every single time that any international leader or any foreign dignitary is visiting Pakistan, they will make sure that they create a ruckus that they've always been creating. Now, like I said earlier,
and the international image of Pakistan, I mean, what kind of image are you giving to all those leaders who come to Pakistan?
See, now more than that, like basically at this point, what they, I would congratulate the government for showing such restraint. I believe that what they basically wanted was a few of the people coming from Pakhtunkhwa to lose their lives, so they can go back home and tell them, like, look, our people got shot in Punjab by the Punjab police. To further see, there's also an agenda in the country which has been going on for quite some time now, which is spreading hatred against Punjab, which being the elder brother in the federation. So they're going to go to any extent to destabilize the federation, and that's part of the agenda. That is why their power base is Pakhtun. They chose one province, and they basically, and that is why over and over again that one province is attacking the federation. See, if you look today, there was no presence of there was no agitation in Punjab, there was no agitation in Sindh, there was no agitation in Balochistan. Had this been a national cause, had the nation been standing behind it, we would have seen the same visuals coming from the entire country.
Daniyal, I'd like to understand, how does this political party justify its use of agitation when it is criticized time and again, even now it is being criticized for disrupting peace or law and order?
See, now to answer that on their behalf, we will have to find some reasoning. Before this question, they have to answer how would they justify using state resources and state machinery and taxpayers' money. See, basically the provincial government or the federal government, any government, they're basically custodian of the national treasury, and they're supposed to use it for the betterment of the masses. So how can, what more fundamentalist, how more fundamentalist can, this is as fundamentalist as TTP. Whatever they believe, the kind of Sharia that they believe is right, they want everyone to believe the same. So similarly, as far as PTI is concerned, they are as fundamentalist. I think they should be treated like a band outfit. It's not a political party, it's a cult, because there's no reasoning, there's no logic. And just look at within the leadership, the level of disintegration. Like the vice chairman recently gave a statement that if the leadership ever feels they find the time, they should come visit me in Kot Lakhpat, Shah Mahmud. So the point is, this is the level of their orientation, or this is their level of being on the same page when it comes to.
If this is their level of orientation, Daniyal, then what are the potential long-term consequences for this political party if it continues to rely heavily on agitation as a political strategy?
Well, you see, eventually, and it's not too far, it's going to fall like a house of cards, because they're not backed by an ideology. For a political party to survive, it has to have some sort of an ideology. Then it has to have some kind of, like look at Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. Like, I might agree with his political ideology or I might not, but in 3-4 years of being in power, the things that he managed to achieve, which were unbelievable. But now the thing with this political party, or the chairman of this political party, is he is basically enjoying a celebrity status. Now, this is a very famous case study in India. Amitabh Bachchan once ran election for an MLA, and he won with a thumping majority. And the next election he lost horribly. Now his performance was not worse than the other MLAs elected, but his celebrity status, or the heroic perception that people had about him, because of that the expectations were so high, he was able to deliver nothing. In comparison to other MLAs, he must be delivering as much as they were, but compared to what people thought of him, he delivered nothing. Same goes with this political party, because the promises that they made, and especially the promises of high moral ground that they made, they weren't able to achieve anything. As far as their accomplishments are concerned, one of the biggest accomplishments that they used to mention was their reforms in the KPK police. Now, I living on the border of KPK, I can tell you for a fact, and often I visit, I have family on that side, KPK police has always been much better in terms of their behavior towards the public compared to Punjab police. And secondly, KPK police, because KPK basically relies on the Jirga system. If you look at the Pakhtun code of conduct, the Pakhtun Wali. So police has never been as politicized in KPK as it's been in Punjab. Now, when it came to Punjab, in the start, we had high expectations when this government, when they formed government in Punjab. If you remember, the former Inspector General Nasir Khan Durrani was appointed head of the Punjab Police Reforms Committee, and he was given the task of reforming the Punjab Police. And after a few months, he was removed from his office because the reforms that he did not bring in KPK, but the reforms that were already in KPK, when he tried implementing in Punjab or destabilizing the Punjab Police, he was showed the door. So, be it other claims that they made, I'll give you another example. He was once, when he was Premier, he was once visiting my hometown Attak, and he was addressing some farmers. So this will tell you the vision that this man has. So one of the farmer said to him that we basically we don't have a canal in this area, so we rely on the rain for our crops. So if you could give us access to solar tube wells and access to the Brota canal and on solar energy, we will be able to cultivate a lot of barren lands. So the Premier, he ignored this suggestion, and the next person said that there's this shop of pesticides in our village, a small village in Attak, and he's like, the shopkeeper often gives us substandard goods. And he just went furious, and he ordered his principal secretary to write the name down, get in coordination with the DC, I want this shop sealed right away. So this is the level of vision that this man had or has when he was in power. So this will tell you enough, this is enough to tell you, basically he believes in micromanagement. And when it comes to running the federal government, micromanagement is complete disastrous. Then on the way back, he stopped at a petrol station, and the bathroom wasn't clean, and he ordered the closure of the petrol station, and he ordered that every petrol station should hire 2 or 3 janitors. So as a result of that, most of the petrol stations, the facility that they had given of the restrooms, they locked them. They're like, instead of maintaining this, so the facility that the masses had, it was shut down, it was taken away. Same goes with, like, I'll give you another example, like during his time, when the Punjab Food Authority started a crackdown on the milk production and the production of produce. After a few months, the price of those goods skyrocketed. Eventually, he had to take back his decision. So basically, he, without thinking, he makes decisions whether he's in power or whether he's not in power. The whole concept of democracy is, when you are not in power, you reflect on your mistakes that you made when you were in power, and then you come back and fix them. Like you might have read that book of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, If I'm Assassinated, in that he writes, there are a lot of things that I learned now that I'm not in power, but the only reason why I'm not admitting them publicly is that then people will think that Bhutto was a coward. But if I come into power, these are the things that I'm going to do. So basically, the whole concept of democracy or the whole concept of election is that after a certain period of time, public holds you accountable, and when you're not in power, you.
But that is very interesting. You say public holds you accountable. You know, as far as the supporters of Pti'S concerned, they have never held him accountable. In fact, whatever he has done, whatever he will continue to do, they will always support him in whatever he says. So there is a dichotomy in all of that as well, as to how politically we need to move forward under such agitation policy of the PTI as well. Thank you very much, Daniyal. We are a bit short of time, or else I would have loved to talk a bit more with you, but this is for very soon again, because we will be discussing this topic in the coming days as well. Thank you very much, Daniyal, Sheikh, political analyst, who have joined us to have discussed Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf's politics of agitation in our segment. Let's come to our third story, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns the International Day of the Elimination of Violence Against Women, which is being observed across the world, including in Pakistan. This year's theme is every 10 minutes a woman is killed, no excuse, unite to end violence against women. It calls upon us to increase investments in prevention of strategies, survivor support, and systemic reforms to address the grave violation of human rights. Pakistan, of course, stands committed to this cause, aligning its national efforts with the global call to action. This is part of a message that our President Asif al-Zardari Saab gave on the occasion. We've been joined by Farzana Bari, who's a human rights activist and of course one of the best people to talk about this International Day. Thank you very much, Farzana, to have joined us. When you look at this day of violence against women, how much of a fight has it been for the women of the world? I'm not just relegating to Pakistan, I'm talking of globally of the women. Aren't women fighting the same cause, whether it be in the developed world or in the developing world?
I think it's more or less, I would say, the same because generally the violence globally is rising, and if you look at the statistics, internationally, every third woman is actually a survivor of violence globally, as well as if you look at Pakistan's statistics, it's more or less the same. So it hasn't really, I think the status of women hasn't, in that way, as far as the gender-based violence is concerned, it hasn't improved, and I think because the issue of violence is very much connected with the larger, socio-economic political context, and you could see that with the increasing conflicts around the world, the one who are the most vulnerable, and they are also in conflict situations, rape is used as a weapon of war, and so what we see, wherever there is conflict going on in the world, and I will say also in Pakistan, violence against women is actually, women are more at the, risk of violation of their fundamental body rights.
All right, Farzana, I would also like to understand, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, on this very day, takes out a statement, talks about every day on an average 140 women and girls are killed by someone in their own family. Around 1 in 3 women still experience physical or sexual violence. No country or community is unaffected, and the situation is getting worse. What would be the major factors, if I were to ask you, behind the women who are killed by people in their own family? And he, as the Secretary General talks about, this is not, this is a global issue, not just a regional issue.
Yeah, actually, gender-based violence is a global pandemic, actually, and the reason being is the patriarchy, basically. I think the fundamental structural reason is the unequal gender relationships, because violence is about power, and globally there is not even a single society which could claim that they are truly egalitarian societies when it comes to, the status of men, women, and transgender being, as equal citizens. So I think the fundamental reason for violence against women is that women are in a subordinate position socially, culturally, politically, and men are actually in the position of power. That's why invariably, if you look at the gender-based violence, women are at the receiving end. They are the victim and survivors, while the perpetrators are, are a majority of are men. Actually, patriarchal social order, which is hierarchical, where all the, the power is tilted towards men. They have a socio-cultural privilege, and also women are socially, economically, are not as empowered, not as autonomous, and that is, and of course, culturally also, and that is one of the, the fundamental reasons that we see globally. Violence against women is a common phenomena, including, of course, region in Pakistan as well.
Finally, Farzana, conflict, hunger, and of course so many other issues, climate change included, give rise to inequalities, and that gives rise to more violence against women. What should the role of, what should be the role of governments to eradicate or reduce this?
Yeah, I think the eradication of gender-based violence actually is not possible, because violence against women is a structural issue, So until and unless, again, if there is, this imbalance of power between men and women, until and unless that equation is corrected, I think the violence will continue. And that's why what we see, in conflict situation, it's not that in conflict, there is no, because women are already in a vulnerable positions, so then they are the one who suffer the most. What actually I'm saying, that if we continue to treat incident of violence, only because incidents of violence are a symptom, but the root cause is the patriarchy, root cause is the imbalance of power between men and women in terms of gender relationships. Until and unless that equation is changed, the power equation change, I think the violence against, elimination of violence against women will be a part, I think, that this is brain as per, my understanding is concerned.
All right. Thank you very much, Farzana Bari, to have joined us, human rights activist, talking to us about the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women, and of course giving her a precious point of view as far as what needs to be done and what is happening across the world. Last two stories. Firstly, of course, the Indian city of Sambhal in the northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh is on alert after 3 people have died and dozens have been injured by violent clashes on Sunday. And these clashes, of course, began when there was activities done in order to ascertain whether a certain mosque that has been there since hundreds of years should be desecrated, and in that place a mandir, a temple reinstated, a temple that many Hindus claim was present all these hundreds of years ago. This has led to clashes, and of course this seems politically inclined as well because of the racial element that is and the religious element that is related to this as well. Finally, of course, we end on a very somber note, ladies and gentlemen. Former senior news editor of Pakistan television, Mrs. Murtaza Javed, has passed away at the age of 61. I myself had the opportunity to work with her on various occasions, and I've found her extremely professional, humble, down to earth, and extremely sincere towards her craft of work. She was undergoing treatment for breast cancer at a hospital in Lahore, and she has served in PTV's news department for nearly 26 years and was regarded as one of the finest professionals. Also worked as a senior news editor and headed the English news desk. Our condolences for Javed Saab and of course the family, and may her soul rest in eternal peace. With that, we come to an end of today's news. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us here in Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.